The Star Wars sequel trilogy has a lot of critics. I've even seen some people say that the plot seems like an algorithm has written it. So that got me wondering, what would the sequel trilogy be like if it had actually been written by an AI? Every single word of the story you are about to see is written by a neural network. The only thing I did was give it some prompts, tell it where to find information from, and tidy up its grammar. What's more, every single piece of art has been generated from the story using an AI image generator. I truly believe that this story is one of the most creative, dark and bizarre stories I've ever read, and surprisingly I think it's quite good. Make sure to let me know whether you think it's better or worse than the actual Star Wars sequel trilogy. Anyway, I hope you enjoy this as much as I did. The story begins with Han Solo and Leia Organa getting married. The Gungan Jar Jar hurries over and gets a bouquet of flowers off of the ground, taking them over to a young couple who are kissing passionately. Getting to his feet, he watches them a while and then turns to Han. He puts his arms around him and kisses him like he has never kissed someone before. "You're not jealous?" says Han to Leia, slightly embarrassed. "Of course I am," Leia said sarcastically. She laughed. "I've been trying to get you two together for years." Outside the wedding, the Millennium Falcon is parked. The ship is empty. Luke has gone to the docking bay ramp to look for ghosts. He can feel them coming towards him from all directions. He opens his mouth and screams, but no sound comes out. Then he feels something cold against his face and looks down to see that it's a huge black hand reaching up from below. It grabs hold of him and lifts him into the air. Luke starts kicking and screaming, but then he hears a voice. "Luke, don't be afraid, you know I'm here for you." And then he realizes it's Darth Vader. The Emperor's mask has fallen away and his head is exposed. His face is covered in blood. He's wearing a red cape now instead of his armor. Vader pulls Luke close and whispers in his ear, "I've come back to help you, my son." "Dad," he said excitedly, "is that really you? What happened to you? Are you hurt?" Vader smiles gently. "No, Luke, I'm fine." He paused. "Do you know what your mother said about me before she died?" Luke shook his head. "She said I was a good man, but she also said that I could get very angry sometimes." He walked closer to Luke and wrapped his arms around him. She was right about that too. The two men embraced one another, knowing that this may be the last time that they get to see each other. Both of them began to glow, as Vader's spirit goes to face the trials of the netherworld of the Force. Their light is so intense that it makes the ships around them start to shake. Suddenly, the light goes out. There is total darkness. In the unknown regions, Grand Admiral Thrawn plots to retake the galaxy from the Jedi and the New Republic. Aboard his flagship, the Imperial Star Destroyer the Executor, he faces a new problem, an ancient superweapon of untold power that the Emperor had secretly gifted to young Princess Leia. However, Thrawn has a new ally, a Sith Lord. These Sith are not just pawns, they are masters of the dark side and know more about it than any other being in the galaxy. They will be great assets to the Empire as Dark Counselors. And boy, I can't wait for the Snoke theories, you man baby. The Emperor has passed on his knowledge of the dark side into this new Sith through his spirit. The Sith have been working together for some time now, planning their next move against the New Republic. They have yet to decide what their plan is, but one thing is certain, these Sith are here to stay. Luke suddenly wakes up. Damn, he thought, I am going to be late for Han's and Leia's wedding. He looks around but can't find himself in this strange place. Where's my X-Wing? What happened to me? And what's my name? Luke struggled to remember his past life. Is there anyone here besides me? You're awake, said an old man. The voice sounded familiar, like one of those voices you hear when you're asleep or you're dreaming. Who are you? Luke asked nervously. My name is Obi-Wan Kenobi. I know that name, I think. That's my father, my real dad. How could I forget after all we've been through together? Obi-Wan told Luke about how he got there. He was in the afterlife. Then he told Luke everything else, how he trained with Yoda, met Princess Leia, fought alongside Han Solo, Chewbacca, C-3PO and R2-D2. Luke wondered if he had lost his mind completely, or if there was some sort of conspiracy going on. Either way, he needed answers fast. He decided to ask Obi-Wan the question burning in his heart. How long ago did this all happen? Obi-Wan smiled kindly. This all started nearly 30 years ago. 30 years? I'm 26 years old, not 65, said Luke. As soon as the words left his lips, he realized that perhaps he shouldn't have asked that particular question. A lot of people have died in between then and now, but I'm sure you can handle it. Obi-Wan's voice sounded tired, as if he's been through a long journey himself. Nothing was as it seemed. Leia walked down the aisle to marry Han Solo. However, some droids had something planned. They attacked her while she was walking up the aisle, in front of an audience that includes all of the other heroes from the rebellion. As they were trying to kill her, she had no choice but to fight them off. The battle raged for hours, until finally Lando Calrissian arrived at the scene and joined forces with Leia, who was now using force powers and weapons against the droids attacking her. The two joined together and defeated their attackers, after which they left, flying away singing, "Love is an open door." After leaving the planet, Leia began thinking about the future and decides that she wants to raise her children with Han. She doesn't want to be apart from him anymore. So they return to Coruscant, where she gives birth to twins Ben and Jaina. However, why the droids attacked is still a mystery. No one knows who hired them or why they attacked her, although she strongly suspects it is the Sith. She misses Luke since he suddenly disappeared on her wedding day, but she is sure he is doing something important. Years later, Ben is growing up quickly and learning the ways of the Jedi. He is becoming stronger every day, and he already understands the Force better than most Jedi Masters. Jaina, however, is a different story altogether. Her parents worry that she may become a dark Jedi. They don't understand that Jaina's anger comes from fear of losing control. And it makes sense when you think about what happened to Anakin Skywalker. One night, Jaina snuck out of bed and went outside. Suddenly, she felt a strong presence behind her and turned to see a spirit staring straight back at her. He takes her hand and led her deeper into the forest. Soon they came upon a small hut made of stone and wood. Inside the room sat a strange creature that looked like a giant catfish. His face was covered with scales and he wore nothing but a loincloth. The spirit introduced Jaina to the creature named Kukritz. He explained that he was a master of the dark side and he teaches younglings how to use their powers wisely. Then he told Jaina that she was ready to begin training, but first she needs to undergo a test to determine whether she really wants to learn. He said that if she passes the test, she will gain great power. Kukritz asked Jaina to close her eyes and focus only on her breathing. Suddenly, she began to feel dizzy, almost as though she is floating in mid-air. A feeling of euphoria overtakes her and she falls to her knees. As she knelt there, she saw images flash across her mind. Images of planets, stars, and galaxies. And she hears voices calling out to her. She opened her mouth and speaks a language unknown to her. At first, she thinks she is speaking nonsense, but suddenly everything becomes clear. She realizes she is speaking in the tongue of the Sith. It is at that moment that she realizes that Han is not her father. Palpatine had placed her in her mother's womb, as he had done to Shmi Skywalker many years before. It is then that she realized her destiny. She must find the Sith and lead them to greatness. After all, she has a splinter of Palpatine's spirit within her. Jaina escaped in a ship to find the Sith and Thrawn. Each Sith had a fragment of Palpatine's spirit, but she had his heart and his mind. She bent the Sith to her will and instructed Admiral Thrawn to ready the fleet. She must retake the galaxy. After all, it is rightfully hers. She was Palpatine's superweapon that he had secretly gifted to Princess Leia. Many years later, the Jedi are fighting against Empress Jaina's forces when they receive word that Jaina is leading an attack on Corban Temple. The Jedi send troops there, but they are not prepared for what happens next. The dark side begins to rise up from within them. Suddenly their bodies begin to change into something else entirely, making them pawns of the dark side. Meanwhile, the Empress leads her army through Corban Temple towards Emperor Palpatine's tomb. Jaina uses the Force to bring back Emperor Palpatine. His resurrection brings forth the true power of the dark side. However, Jaina simply kills him and consumes his power. The entire galaxy begins to change as a result, becoming darker than ever before. In the Netherworld, Obi-Wan informs Luke why Vader had transferred him to the future. He told him that Jaina had actually been a secret weapon made by Palpatine, and it was Luke Skywalker's duty to vanquish her. If he didn't, then all would be lost. Obi-Wan then thrust him into the real world to face Empress Jaina. The two met on the capital planet of Coruscant. In front of millions upon millions of people, both fought for their lives and souls. Jaina was the first to use the Force to throw off Luke, but instead of being knocked down, Luke used the Force to pull himself up and continue fighting. While doing this, he also managed to hit Jaina several times with lightning bolts. "You're no match," said the Sith. "I've already won." Then Jaina realized something. Her own powers weren't working. It seemed that something else had taken away her magic. It was Princess Leia. During Luke's time in exile, she'd somehow gotten hold of his lightsaber. Using its light, she was able to blind Jaina temporarily while grabbing her arm. "I will always love you, Jaina," said Leia. Leia pulled out a small dagger from somewhere inside her dress, stabbing it right through Jaina's chest. "It's your fault for being so selfish, Luke. If you did not leave, my daughter would not have lost control of the Force. All you cared about was being a Jedi. You should have realized that family is the most important thing." "You have a second chance, you know," said Obi-Wan to Luke, "but it comes at a great cost." Obi-Wan disappeared, leaving Luke behind. Upon closer inspection, he saw that the Empress's heart was glowing red, and that's when he found the answer. It was Palpatine's spirit all along. Luke focused on it with the Force. It was an epic battle of wills, but eventually Luke and Palpatine were both consumed by the Force. Jaina's body transformed into the teenage girl she had been before she fell to the dark side. The spirit of Palpatine was now gone, and with his spirit gone, the Empire was defeated once again. Jaina was now released from the dark spell cast upon her by the servants of the dark side. "Mom, where am I?" Jaina asked. "You're safe now, darling," Leia replied. Their victory was bittersweet for Han and Leia, despite the fact they had regained their daughter from demonic possession. The ghost of Darth Vader reappeared on the desert planet of Tatooine in the form of a beautiful woman. Vader informed Jaina that she was to become the most powerful Jedi. She agreed and went on to become the greatest and the last true leader of the Jedi Order.